Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this session because, well, we're looking at something that happens literally every single day in the business world, yet it almost never gets mapped out this clearly. We're going to explore the complete anatomy of a software project, and we aren't just talking about writing code here. We're diving into the fascinating reality of how two entirely different companies briefly merge their timelines to solve a massive, complex problem and then completely separate again. It really is a modern tale of two companies.
All right, let's dive right in. The journey of a business-to-business or B2B project is often messy, but it happens in parallel realities from start to finish. We're dealing with two distinct timelines running at the exact same time, one for a supermarket and one for a software company. We're going to trace exactly how those two paths intersect, how they collaborate, and eventually how they diverge. We'll break the whole life cycle down step by step so you can see exactly how it all comes together.
Here's our quick roadmap for the explainer. First, two companies, different worlds. Second, identifying the problem. Third, the development phase. Fourth, integration and launch. And finally, returning to normal. Okay, let's start with section 1. Two companies, different worlds. Before a project even officially exists, we have our two players living in totally different universes. On one side, we've got ABC Supermarket, located all the way in France. On the other side, we have XYZ Software Company based in New York. Now, both of these organizations are actually growing, but their day-to-day operations, they couldn't be more distinct. ABC Supermarket is an expanding physical retail business, but it's currently buckling under the weight of its own operational chaos. Meanwhile, XYZ Software Company is highly successful, rapidly expanding its digital footprint across the ocean. Let's look a little closer at ABC Supermarket's situation. Despite their growth, they're dealing with 5 very specific, super painful problems right out of the gate. Number 1, they're paying amounts way too many times. Number 2, and this is noted directly in their project files, they are unable to trace mobile for stack. Number 3, they are plagued by wrong calculations. Number 4, there is basically no timing or coordination between staff. And number 5, they keep making payroll preparation mistakes. I mean, this is a business that is literally bleeding efficiency. It's a chaotic environment that desperately needs a system. Now, contrast all that chaos with XYZ Software Company's thriving reality. They are kicking things off with a clear label of success. Their metrics are fantastic. Successful projects under their belt, climbing profits, a growing staff, and maybe most importantly, advanced projects already signed and lined up. They are a totally well-oiled machine. And this perfectly highlights the dynamic of almost all B2B consulting, right? A company in distress reaching out to a company in peak form to essentially buy some of that operational order. Which brings us nicely to section 2, identifying the problem. So how does this initial meeting of the minds actually happen? Well, there's a very specific sequence. First, ABC reaches out to the software company with an initial inquiry. This escalates into a formal group discussion. They sit down around a table, they hash through all those payroll nightmares and calculation errors, and that discussion drives them to a really critical, formal milestone. Problem identified. They have officially agreed on exactly what needs fixing. But here's a fascinating reality check for you. During all of this, for ABC Supermarket, the old system not stopped. They still have to sell groceries every single day, even if their payroll is an absolute mess. And for XYZ Software, hunting new projects not stopped. Life goes on. The world absolutely doesn't pause just because these two companies are having some meetings. They both have to maintain their baseline operations while trying to plan this massive new undertaking. Once that problem is locked down, we hit formal project setup. After the research phase and getting the client sign-off, the actual project work officially begins. But notice the strict parameters here. It kicks off with established payment intervals and a set duration of completion. This isn't just some open-ended favor between friends. It's a boundaried contractual engagement. All the expectations, financial and timeline-wise, are completely locked in before any of the heavy lifting starts. Let's move into section 3. The development phase. Now, XYZ Software has to hit 5 very specific chronological technical milestones. First up is requirement collection. That's gathering every single nitty-gritty detail of what ABC needs. Second is analysis and design, where they plan the architecture. Third is implementation, which is the actual coding. Fourth is testing, making sure that code works in isolation. And finally, fifth is deployment testing, ensuring it's actually going to survive when pushed into a live environment. It's a highly structured, step-by-step engineering process. But honestly, here is the real secret to making those 5 technical steps work. Constant, two-way communication.
XYZ isn't just building this in some dark room in New York and hoping for the best. They are constantly checking in with the client over in France, sending prototypes down and getting feedback sent right back up. That continuous two-way communication is the absolute engine driving the entire development phase.
All right, moving to Section 4, Integration and Launch.
So, when it's time to deploy, the process actually splits into two parallel paths. Over at ABC, environment, equipment, installation, and the setup starts for hardware. They have to physically prep their stores, maybe ripping out old registers or putting in new servers. Simultaneously, over at XYZ, software installation and testing completes. The physical, real-world environment is being built from the bottom up, while the digital environment is being locked down from the top down.
Then we hit a massive, strict gatekeeping step. The process states, after closing all issues, the new system starts only after absolutely every single issue discovered during installation and testing is officially closed out. It doesn't start when it's just good enough. It's a hard boundary to make sure ABC Supermarket doesn't just trade their old, chaotic physical problems for a brand new set of digital ones.
So, the ribbon is cut. The new system is live. The hardware and software are talking to each other. But I have a question for you. What happens after the new system starts? You might think the project just abruptly ends, they shake hands and walk away, right? Well, let's look at how this aftermath is actually handled because it reveals a vital phase of software implementation that people almost always overlook.
That takes us to our final section, returning to normal.
Immediately following the big launch, we enter a final hand-holding phase. We see the integration of the legacy system with the new system, meaning they don't just delete the old way of doing things, it's carefully merged, so absolutely no data is lost. Following this is a designated maintenance period, complete with little red flag alerts. XYZ is keeping a very watchful eye on ABC. They don't just drop the software and run, they stay in the trenches to make sure the integration actually holds steady in the real world.
Once that maintenance period is finally over, the timeline's firmly split apart again. It's a really satisfying conclusion. ABC Supermarket goes back to being busy with their regular work. Thanks to the new system, they are finally free to just run their grocery business without constant payroll mistakes. Meanwhile, XYZ's path stretches forward, noting other project works goes on, leading directly to other projects. They've completely succeeded in their mission and are already moving on to the next client.
But before XYZ completely moves on, there is one fantastic, quirky little detail at the very end. We see an archive labeled Back to Organization with the super specific text, Rack 3, Volume 10, 2026. They don't just forget about ABC Supermarket. They neatly, systematically archive the completed project into their organizational records for the year 2026. The project is officially laid to rest, meticulously filed away in their corporate memory forever.
And that brings us to our final takeaway. Ultimately, a successful B2B software project is about so much more than just writing code. It's this intricate art of two entirely different companies, with their own daily demands, their own pressures, deliberately merging their timelines. They communicate constantly to solve a specific set of chaotic problems, and then gracefully separate to seamlessly return to their own worlds, significantly better than they were before. Think about the sheer scale of that coordination the next time you use a smoothly running self-checkout system. So, what complex timelines are merging in your industry right now? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this gave you a powerful new perspective on how business actually gets done.